Of course, the sacred books of the religions mean different things to different people, and the content of those books mean different things. Some people take the content of the sacred books to be the literal word of God. Other people take the content to be the words of inspired human beings. Other people take the content to be metaphorical. I think that the content of the sacred books is a kind of knowledge. At the very least, it's a knowledge of the wisdom and the understanding of inspired human beings. I do believe that when the sacred books make statements about the physical universe, that those statements must be analyzed by the methods of science. They are part of the physical universe, and they fall within the realm of science and are proper material for the investigation of science. I want to say a few words about faith, and I'm almost at the end of my talk. I believe that there are many things that we take on faith without evidence, or even without a methodology for gaining evidence. I think we cannot prove why the ending of a particular novel haunts us. We cannot prove under what conditions we would sacrifice our own lives for the lives of our children. We cannot prove what the meaning of our life is, or whether life has any meaning at all. These are all questions that lie outside of science. They're questions that we take on faith. We have beliefs. We can debate these questions, we can analyze them, but we can never have a kind of rational analysis in the same way that a physicist does when he or she drops a golf ball and measures how long it takes to hit the floor. These are questions of the humanities, they're questions for the arts, they're questions for philosophy, they're questions of aesthetics, and they're also questions of religion. They're questions of faith and belief. I'd like to say a little bit more about the distinction between the physical world and the spiritual world. In the physical world is a world that we can use rulers and clocks to measure, to get evidence. The spiritual world is a world where the personal experience and our faith are more important. The evidence lies in what we feel individually, person by person. The physical world and the spiritual world each have their own domains of validity. If you ask a question like, how old is the Earth? Well, this is a question that is a physical question. The Earth is a physical object. We can do scientific experiments like measure the rate of disintegration of certain radioactive rocks, and we can measure the age of the Earth. By contrast, a question like, does God exist? Or is it moral to kill an enemy soldier in time of war? These are questions that lie in the world of religion. They are outside of science. So the two different worlds have their own realms of validity. They have their own power, their own force. And I am impatient with people like Richard Dawkins, the British scientist, who attempt to use the methods of science to disprove religion, to disprove the existence of God, I should say. There's nothing that science can do to disprove the existence of God, because God, as we understand God, lies outside of time and space, outside of the material universe, beyond the methods of science. Likewise, I am impatient with people who make arguments about the physical universe that are in clear contradiction with the findings of science. Let me end by saying a few words about some of the many similarities of science and religion, and I hope that I've given you a sense of the complexity of the interplay between the two. I think that both science and religion are seeking truth. In science, it's truth in the physical world. In religion, it's truth in the spiritual world. The experience that I had with the ospreys was a truth that I learned in the spiritual world. It was a truth about the unity of nature. It was a truth about things larger than myself. It was a truth about my own emotional and psychological being at that time. These are not insignificant truths. Beauty. I think that both science and religion are seeking beauty in a certain way. I believe that there's beauty in the physical world and there's beauty in the spiritual world. Galileo's law of falling bodies. If you graph that, it looks like this. That's the curve that says the distance a body falls is proportional to the square of the time. It's a beautiful geometrical shape, and many of the laws of science have a beauty of that kind. There's a beauty in the spiritual world, and I'm telling you things that everyone here understands as well or better than I do. There's beauty in the relationships between people. There's beauty in our awe of the cosmos. There's beauty in both the physical and the spiritual world. There are some people who believe, and I say this with full respect, that there is no distinction between the physical world and the spiritual world. That it is all one unity. That there's no distinction between the inner or the outer, between the subjective and the objective, between the rational and the miraculous. That is a very attractive belief, that there's no distinction between the physical and the spiritual world. I personally cannot hold to that belief. I believe that there is a difference, and for me to make sense of my life, both as a scientist and as a humanist, I need that distinction between the physical and the spiritual universe. I think both universes have their realm of validity, both have their power, both have their beauty, both have their mystery. And recently, and I think this happened actually in Memphis, that I was having a talk with a Presbyterian minister, and he told me that he thought that both science and religion share a sense of wonder. And I would agree. Thank you.
So we will have some time for questions, and there will be a microphone that will go around. So if you have